Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in on my live Sunday morning broadcast. I do this every Sunday, and I have for over 6 years. I'm Denise Dryden. I'm a coach. I always work with that parent or that adult who's also juggling life and parenting at the same time. So I'm going to put in what your experience is with yourself, with your partner, with your children as a parent, and also, maybe up as the child to the parenting relationship you were raised with. So I'm going to hold all of that area today while we talk about people pleasing. Because last week I did, the three ways to determine truth, and as I was writing it, and with a dear friend of mine, Danny McDonald, she's been in Montana for the last 3 months, and we've been collaborating on a lot of work. She goes, "Oh, you have to talk about people pleasing, because what happens when the truth meets our patterns of people pleasing?" And it's like, here we go, right? So to start out with, it's common sense that we feel better when the other person in front of us, let's just call them the other, right, is happy with us. It's almost like when they're pleased with us, when they smile, when they like us, when we entertain them, when they just accept us for everything that we are. What happens is we relax into ourselves, right? So we have these ways of seeking that out, right? What we need as humans is we need that little smile, that little twinkle in their eye. We need something that says that they're happy with us. Um, and there's a couple of core reasons. Number one is that if they're in discomfort, we get uncomfortable, right? If they're angry or hurt or mad at us, we try to placate, like, well, what if I do this? Well, what if I do that? So we try to sort of calm the energy down. And the other thing is that we do it to receive energy, which is like, man, I feel really good when someone tells me I'm okay. Right. So it's external based. It's about another person and how they see you and how you can change the way that they see you so that you feel more comfortable. This is really interesting. So it's this pattern, and it's predominant in our culture because it's been conditioned into us. And it starts with our parents, right? And then it goes to our schools, and it goes to our churches, and it goes to our jobs. And it's who we identify certain people in our family. Like my father. I'll give you a really good example. He was a very fun, loving, easygoing man until he wasn't. And when he wasn't, he would just shut down, and he would get really, in his cheek would do this thing. And when that cheek started, every part of me went into, "Oh no, oh no. He's mad. What did I say? What did I do? What's going on? How do I make this calm? How do I get this energy out of the room?" Right? So it's this need to please, and who we need to please. We identifying who we need to please, why we need them to be happy, why we need them to like us, and what we will do so that the other will be okay with us. And so there's this, it instigates this, like, oh no, it's this person. And then it's, what do I need to do, and how do I make this happen so that they are pleased, so that they are better. So what we get is, we get our energy field calms down. So those of us that are empathic or highly sensitive, or those of you who are raising children who are empathic or highly sensitive, or they pick up on the energies, what we're doing is we're either protecting us or we're protecting them as parents, right? We also get this, so our energy field, right? Absolutely better. Second thing is that it creates a sense of belonging. Like, I'm not at odds with the people who matter to me, whether it's community, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's coworkers. I have a sense of security, right? Because when we're in this homeostasis, when we're in balance, everything feels much more secure to me, and I'm not worried about what's next, right? So the outcome is really based on, if I let's just say, if I blank, right? If I do this, if I tap dance, if I smile, if I give someone a back rub, if I soften my boundaries, right? Then you will, and then blank, then you will let go of your anger with me. Then you will see me in a more acceptable light, then you will smile. Then you may touch me, gently. Something that is a give and a get. So we do something to get it. Make sense? So I looked up to please. Of course, I'm always going to go to the dictionary, right? So I look up to please, which is to give pleasure, enjoyment, or satisfaction. So when we please someone, we do it to give pleasure, to give satisfaction and enjoyment. We do it to be agreeable. Everybody likes this when you play the game with us and you're agreeable. To be the will or desire of, which is, oh, I want to be more like her, or I love the way that they manage the room. I want to be more like that, right? And it also holds protocols in place. So when we use please, please, and thank you, I mean, how many times did, well, those of us who were in the baby boomer era, how many times is it drummed into you? If you say please, I'll give it to you. If your grandmother really needs to hear you say thank you and write thank you notes and all these protocols, right? To please the other. So at the root of all of this is how we manifest, how we create our physical reality. And so what we do is we create by moving ourselves in and out of who's accepting us, who isn't, are they happy, are they not happy, and we move this around the protocols within our society, within our family relationships, within the structures. And so what happens is we adapt and we change our words, we change our energy, we keep our head down when we don't want to be too bold, we put ourselves out there when we really need something. We need to be polite, or we learn to be polite and acceptable. And the way we use this holds our energy. It can be incredibly manipulative, and at the same time, it is what we've learned in order to survive in our culture, which is I'm going to morph, I'm going to change, I'm going to please, I'm going to adapt in order to make sure that those around me are happy. So we do this especially for those who we perceive as power. So we might do this with parents, we might do this with bosses, we might do this with a friend that we adore and we would never want to lose that friendship. I found myself while I was in the Seattle area doing a lot of pleasing because I just would do anything to be around this woman who was fascinating. I loved her energy. And I noticed that I was doing a lot of people pleasing and I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, at my age I'm still doing this. This is hilarious," right? Um so when we please, when we need to address that level of discomfort, or they might be mad at me, or they didn't like that, or I don't know what to do, right? It has core roots in trauma. Of course it does. And so trauma keeps coming up over and over and over again as our culture, which is we have a memory, we have an experience, and it drives all of our ability to maneuver and manipulate into our culture and present ourselves and to talk to others. So it makes sense to me that those core roots of trauma are in survival. Like, what if, let's just exaggerate that family story I said that when my dad's cheek went, like, then I knew that he was mad. What if the next thing was that he hit? Or in my case, he didn't hit. What he did was he yelled and he shut it down really fast. And you would just sit there and, like, my brother used to spill his milk like every dinner when that happened. And the whole house would go into chaos, right? So survival, fear, expectations. I really need to perform a certain way because my parents want me to be good at school, because my parents want me to start on the sports team, because my friends like me more when I drink with them. There's all of these things, right? There's also anger, which is, our placating is gonna mask our anger, and then sometimes it just goes inside, and we start to move like this simmering, volcano. It's also when we need approval. And, I've moved our family in 5 different places and started schools with new friends. And that means my kids made new friends in classes. I had to make new mom friends, new neighborhood support, friends, all of that. And so what I notice is I'm trying to do things in these moves to sort of fit in to get approval. So I do a lot of people pleasing. And for me, I used to cook and entertain so that people would be very happy with having food at my house, right? So these are old repetitive patterns that I have. It's us it's the way we respond to the other in a certain way. And so what we do is we consciously or unconsciously we change the will or the energy of ourselves, of the other person and of the scenario in order to placate or soothe or to remove irritation. I mean, the whole core of it is to remove irritation. I don't like it when. Okay. Now let's notch that up one more level, which is if we're empathic or if we're sensitive, highly sensitive, we have keen, profound observation skills, and we read other people, then we're always shaping our approach. We're implementing our actions and communications around what our desired outcome is with that person. And there are times when, because of our need for security and belonging, and because of our people pleasing skills, we don't always feel authentic. Or we know when we see it in other people that they're not on steady ground and that they can be easily rocked because they're doing this in order to get acceptance. So if you withhold acceptance, you have power over them. So this whole people pleasing acceptance, who has power, who doesn't have power, gets really interesting. I was thinking too, is that, this is when we place somebody in a power position over ourselves. And I've noticed, I forgot to mention it earlier, but I also want to mention that we also do this in our faith-based stuff. We put God, we put our our prayers above ourselves, right? And so what happens is that we're basing all of this on our own life experiences, on our own stories, on our own sense of self, and on our own perspectives, and on that which was conditioned into us. So this is where it bumps into the three ways that we determine truth, because if we know when we're in alignment and we know when we're out of alignment. We know when we're in resonance, where our body feels relaxed and matching the energy of those around us, and we know when it's not, and when we're in discomfort and when we're agitated. And we also know when we add up the stories, or we start to put the pieces together in our mind, that it's not congruent, that they don't add up. And so what happens when we're seeing someone saying something, but either they're out of alignment, or your body's saying like, wow, they're just not really being very truthful right now, or the pieces don't add up. So when the truth bumps into this people pleasing, I've got 4 tips for you, to sort of approach and pay attention over this week. So the first one is to explore some of the, take the next event, the next experience that you have with the external. Let's just say it's Sunday night, you're tired, and your partner's like, "Hey, you want to order a pizza?" And you're like, "Yeah." And you always end up eating whatever they order, because it's just too much to argue into who's going to order it then, and what sizes should we get. So you just please, 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 and you placate. So it could be you get what the kids want, you get what your partner wants, you get whatever, right? So what happens is you have this experience with the external. So pay attention as consciously as you can. What happens in your body when you do that? What happens to your energy? What happens in your thinking when you're like, yeah, I freaking hate, everything on it, right? I always pick out the peppers, I pick half the meat off, I do this and this, and yet I'm doing it because you don't want to cause a rift. So just notice, oh man, I caved again. Or I'm doing what they need me to do. And where do you feel it? It's and what would happen if you said, no, yeah, I'll have pizza, but I'm ordering no sauce white pizza with vegetables on top, or whatever, right? And the whole family's like, wait, what? Mom just did this, dad just did this, right? Number 2, feel it. Feel it resonate within your body and your field, like the way that how am I going to get to the other side of this? I said something different. I didn't please, or I noticed how I'm paying attention and I wasn't quite as easy to please in this one, because number 1, you're just paying attention. You might put something out there, but notice how it feels in your body. And then how do I just sit with it and get to the other side, which is not ignore it, not numb it out, not distract myself, not pour another glass of wine. It happens every time. I'll deal with this next week. How do you stand in it as you are, going beyond the cause and effect? So this is where our courage starts to start, and our truth is like, I'm doing it again. here I am, being as happy as I can with something I don't want to do. Number 3, expect a response. If you change something, if you even like don't show as much placating as you usually do, or you don't do the things that you've conditioned your people into expecting from you, right? You can expect a response. You've changed the pattern. You just stopped responding in a method to please. So, my favorite is when I finally go like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna eat that pizza. I want this one." It's kinda like, "Oh, really?" And sometimes there's snide, sometimes there's like, "Oh, we don't have time for that." There's dismissal. There's these things, right? And so you respond to what you feel and what you know, and the other is going to challenge this. And so I just use an example of ordering a pizza with a spouse or a partner, right? It's also something simple like your kid says, "Can I watch this?" or "Can I eat this?" or "Is it okay if I go over?" And you're like, "No, not tonight." And then they're used to you maybe saying no the first time, right? And then they amp it up, and you get to watch, if I just please them, they won't be mad at me, and we won't have a rift in the house tonight, and it won't happen. This is the most difficult phase, is that first refusal, or that first smack up against the pattern that we have spent our entire life trying not to experience. So we stand in our sovereignty, and we put a little bit of truth out there, which is, yeah, no, not tonight. And then we get to watch the responses, and then go back to 2, which is feel it, resonate with it, watch it come back through. So you do 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, and you go back and forth, because what we're doing is we're trying to feel what happens when exactly what we're avoiding shows up. Number 4, hold yourself and the other person is in compassion. This is not easy work. You're going to try to change a pattern that you may have been doing since, in my case, since I was 5 years old. I'm really good at people pleasing until I'm not. And then when I'm not, I don't know what to do with those sharp reactions that come when I'm simply not going to do that anymore. My mother told me she hated my hair long, and for some reason I just keep growing it, right? And one time she said, "I'm not going out with you unless you do something with that hair because it was really big." And I said, "Okay, I'm willing to stay home. I'll make myself some dinner." And she was like, and so, like, what do we do? We have to have compassion. So the compassion is like, "Oh, she's really frustrated with me. I'm not doing what she wants me to do anymore." And we have to have compassion for them when they have that. We have to have compassion for ourselves, which is, this is hard. And every part of me is, it might be shaking and going like, "It's okay. I'm not eating that pizza this time. I'm not letting the kid do this. I'm going to wear my hair the way I want it." Right. So the response to the pattern and our ability to say, of course, when these clash, we have to hold it all in compassion, because compassion is simply saying, acknowledging that it is hard and that the other person must be having the same kind of experience that you're having, or they're having their own experience and you don't know what it is, right? So this is very crucial in power relationships with your kids, in your partnerships and marriages, in your work scenario. So going through this people pleasing is simply recognizing that there are times when you have been trained to placate and to avoid discomfort, and that now it's time to take that back, especially if it's out of alignment with your truth. So these are the kind of things that I'm doing now in my coaching. As we go into the end of September, October, and November, we're sort of gearing into changes in our countries. We're gearing into money shutdowns, other things where that placating isn't going to be as easy. So if this is something that I can help you with, by all means, let me know what I can do. You can find me on denisdryden.com, and drop me a note, and let's see what we can do. You take care. I'll see you next Sunday. Bye bye.